Hey everyone, this is Spencer with Blacktop Karts. Doing something a little bit different today. This is a 1974 Honda CT70 or Trail 70 that I picked up about a week ago. I'm going to go through and kind of fix it up a little bit and get it roadworthy. It is a completely licensed, registered, street legal motorcycle. So currently, all the headlights, taillights, turn signals, speedometer, that kind of stuff is having some issues. So I'm going to go ahead and strip this thing down and install this whole new kit that I got from Bart Moto Co. So this kit has got the full wiring harness, odometer, speedometer, new headlight, and all the wiring to handle, controls, horn, battery, that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the bike tore down, and I'll check back in and kind of show you what we're working with here. Teardown's complete. What an absolute mess of wiring. I would have never expected the number of wires in such a small bike, and it's not doing very many things. I guess it's handling an ignition and turn signals and brake lights and taillights and all that stuff, but just a mess of wiring. So I'm really glad that I got the complete kit. So I'm going to go ahead and start the reassembly process. I think I'll start with getting the handlebar controls done. That way at least the bike is operable again. So I'll touch back in with you when I get those all put together. Don't mind the messy shop in the background here, but the handlebar controls are all installed. The plugs for them are still just hanging. This actually replaces the throttle cable. So I'll have to attach that to the top of the carburetor, route that properly. I will say, going through and putting these on, this one I had to do a little bit of sanding to get that to fit over the handlebar properly. And then there's also like a little locating pin in the top of this piece. So I ended up having to mark exactly where I wanted it to go, center punch it, and then I drilled an 1/8" hole for that to kind of sit in. These screws on this one here, this one didn't want to line up and close up all the way. It actually started to pull the threads out, so it's just kind of cheap, not great quality. So I might have to drill that out, put some helicoils, or just replace it with something entirely different. But for now, it'll get the job done. Quick tip on installing the harness through the body here, or the main neck of the bike. You really need to stick the new ignition switch inside, kind of down in the neck, and leave the pigtail hanging out here, or I guess the plug rather. Pull the entire harness through, because all this won't fit with the ignition plugged all the way into the other side here, and the ignition won't fit with this stuff hanging out going up to the handlebar controls and headlights and all that kind of stuff. So you really need to snake this by after this is already down in here ready to go, and then pull it forward enough to get to the plug off of the main harness, plug in your key switch, and then you can kind of get the key switch shoved back into its hole on the other side, put the beauty ring on and all that, and get everything buttoned up. Did a little bit more off camera than I expected, but some of this stuff was just really hard to film. So got the harness all the way through the frame there. Everything in the front is all tied together. There's a bunch of plugs and stuff that I just stuffed inside of the headlight there. And then hooked up the speedometer cable. This is about as far as I'm going to be able to go in this step, because I am missing some things. Like I'm going to have to replace the front brake and the clutch levers, because they don't come with those. So I'll need to get something a little bit different than what I had, because the stuff I had is on the controls itself, and I don't want to do that. So got everything kind of temped up. I went ahead and these little blinkers fit in the front nicely, but in the rear I had to pull the license plate frame off and kind of drill some holes there. And I went ahead and cleaned up the rear tail light and everything. Everything's temporarily wired up, so you can see when I turn the key on, now we get a readout on the speedometer, odometer, and everything starts working. So you flip the first position here, you get a small running light in the front, and that's about it. Second position, you get the full headlight, and then if you toggle over here, that's your high beam and low beam. From this side as well, you have your horn, which currently is just hanging right down there by the fork, but I'll clean that up as well. I really like these turn signals. They're just kind of cheapo turn signals, but they work pretty well and they're progressive. So there's the left turn signal, right turn signal, and you can see they're functioning in the rear as well. I also went through and added in a new brake plunger, so you can see when you hit the brakes right here, the rear tail light turns on. So that all seems to work perfect. I have a lot of cleanup to do. I'll get the fuel tank back in, get everything all kind of tidied up, buttoned up, get some new front brake and clutch levers, and should be ready to test it out. Thanks.